The Elysian Hall was the kind of place where wealth didn't whisper. It hummed in the air like a private frequency. Gold-veined marble floors, crystal chandeliers that looked as though they'd been stolen from Versailles, and the faint sound of a live string quartet drifting through the air vents. The waiters moved like chess pieces, precise, silent, trained to disappear. Nathan Cole adjusted the cuff of his black shirt before stepping out from the kitchen doors. He'd only been at the Elysian for 6 months, but already he knew how to read a table the way he used to read manuscripts. Rhythm, hierarchy, subtext. Every night he told himself it was temporary, that one day he'd leave the tray behind. But for now, the tray was his anchor, his disguise, and his debt collector's patience. At table 9, a new reservation had arrived. 5 people, all expensively dressed, laughter sharp enough to cut glass. At the head sat Clara Davenport, a real estate titan who'd once been featured on the cover of the London Ledger under the headline, "The Queen of Concrete." Her platinum hair was sculpted immaculately, her jewelry deliberate but blinding. Beside her sat 3 international investors, Dr. Li Xiu, whose calm eyes missed nothing, and the 2 Japanese businessmen, Takashi Mori and Haru Okada, who spoke in soft murmurs between them. The 5th was Clara's husband, quiet and a little drunk already. Nathan approached the table with his best neutral smile. "Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Elysian. May I offer you a drink to start?" Clara looked him over slowly, her gaze lingering too long, the way people examined art they didn't intend to buy. "You're new, aren't you?" she said. "I've been here a few months, ma'am." "American. Born in Brixton, actually," he replied with easy composure. "How refreshing," she said, turning back to her guests. "You see, gentlemen, the Elysian prides itself on diversity." A ripple of polite laughter went around the table. Nathan didn't react. He'd learned that silence was sometimes the only armor left to the working man. He took their orders, 2 bottles of wine, a sashimi platter, seared duck breast, and truffle risotto. As he walked back toward the kitchen, he could feel the laughter following him like perfume. Half an hour later, when the entrees had been served and the wine had loosened tongues, Clara leaned back in her chair, swirling her glass. "Do you know what fascinates me about languages?" she said, loud enough for several nearby tables to hear. "They reveal breeding. Some tongues are simply more sophisticated." Nathan, who was pouring water into Dr. Li Xiu's glass, froze for a fraction of a second. Clara continued, "Take Mandarin, for instance. The way it flows, poetic, structured. Not just anyone can grasp it."
Li Xiu smiled faintly.
"Indeed, it takes years to master properly." "Oh, I'm sure," Clara said, eyes sliding toward Nathan. "But wouldn't it be marvelous if our waiter could take our order in Mandarin? It would make our guests feel right at home." Takashi chuckled politely, thinking it a joke. Nathan straightened slightly. "I beg your pardon, ma'am?" "I said," Clara repeated. "Why don't you serve us in Mandarin? I'll even make it worth your while." She reached into her purse and pulled out a crisp stack of notes, £500 at least, laying it on the table like bait. "If you can take our dessert order in perfect Mandarin, the money is yours. If not, you'll fetch our bill in silence." The laughter this time wasn't polite. Even Haru Okada looked away, uncomfortable.
Li Xiu's smile fada.
Nathan's first instinct was to walk away, professionalism over pride. But something in Clara's tone, that lilting condescension that reminded him of every lecture hall where his intelligence had been second-guessed, lodged beneath his skin. He set down the water jug carefully. "As you wish, ma'am." A hush rippled across the nearby tables. Even the string quartet seemed to soften. Nathan straightened, his voice steady. He spoke. Not clumsily, not haltingly, but in fluent, elegant Mandarin, his accent rolling with the precision of someone who had lived the language.
尊敬的各位客人，请问你们想要什么甜点？我们的菜单今天有新鲜的芒果慕斯，或者温热的巧克力舒芙蕾。
Li Xiu's head snapped up. Her expression transformed from polite interest to astonishment. Takashi blinked. Haru's mouth fell open slightly. Clara froze, her wineglass halfway to her lips. What did he just say? She asked. Li Xiu recovered first. He asked us what desserts we would like and mentioned the specials. His tone is impeccable. Her eyes gleamed. Near native, I'd say. Nathan waited, hands behind his back, eyes calm. For a moment, the entire restaurant seemed to breathe with him. Clara set her glass down, color rising in her cheeks. Well, she said, forcing a laugh. Perhaps I underestimated you. Many do, ma'am, he replied, still in Mandarin. Then, switching seamlessly to Japanese, he added,
本日の特別デザートは抹茶のティラミスでございます。
Today's special dessert is matcha tiramisu. Takashi nearly choked on his wine. Fluent Japanese too, he said in disbelief. Around them, heads were turning. Other diners whispered. Phones discreetly lifted to record. Clara's smirk was gone, replaced by something brittle. Li Xiu leaned forward. Tell me, Mr. Cole, she said softly, in English now, where did you learn these languages? Nathan met her eyes. At Oxford. I used to teach comparative linguistics there. A silence heavy as velvet dropped over the table. Clara's husband muttered, Oh, dear God. Nathan inclined his head politely. Your desserts will be out shortly. He turned and walked away, steady, silent, leaving Clara staring at the untouched pile of money. Nathan pushed through the kitchen doors, the hum of the dining room fading behind him. Inside, the smell of seared duck and garlic butter filled the air. Pots hissed, knives clattered. A few of the younger waiters looked up, wide-eyed. Mate, whispered Jamil, the pastry chef's assistant. What did you just do out there? Half the rooms got their phones out. Nathan exhaled slowly, setting his tray on the counter. I took an order, he said. Sounded like magic to me. Jamil grinned. Whatever it was, you shut her right up. Nathan smiled faintly, but his pulse hadn't slowed. He washed his hands, then leaned against the counter. Somewhere between the clinking pans, a memory began to replay. Oxford, 5 years earlier. The echo of chalk against a blackboard. The smell of old paper. He'd been Dr. Nathan Cole then, lecturer in comparative linguistics, with a fellowship proposal on the evolution of tonal languages. The university corridors had smelled of polish and ambition. His students used to call him the polyglot prodigy. Then his father had gotten sick. The diagnosis had been a quiet disaster. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The bills came faster than the treatments, and Nathan's research funding ran dry. When he requested extended leave, the department chair offered sympathy, but no pay. He'd sold his books first, over 2,000 volumes. Then his car. Then the little flat in Oxford that had been his sanctuary. His father passed on a rain-soaked morning while Nathan was still waiting for a grant approval that never came. By the time he tried to return to academia, his position had been filled. London had swallowed him whole after that. A city too fast to notice a man falling. He'd taken whatever jobs came. Tutoring, transcribing, finally waiting tables. It was honest work, but every night, as he folded napkins with scholar's precision, he felt the ache of words unsaid. Tonight, though, tonight had been different. Cole, called the maitre d', breaking through his thoughts. Table 9 asked for you again. Nathan wiped his hands, steadied his breath. and returned to the dining room. The mood had changed. The laughter was gone. Even the air around table 9 seemed heavier. Clara sat stiffly, glass empty, the 500 pounds still on the table. Li Xiu was speaking quietly to the Japanese investors in Mandarin. When Nathan approached, Clara looked up with forced poise. "Ah, Mr. Cole," she said, her tone clipped. "Please bring another bottle of the Chateau Margaux. And perhaps," she hesitated, "join us for a moment."
Dr. Li insists.
Li Xiu gestured to an empty chair. "Just for a minute," she said kindly. "I promise no more tests." Nathan hesitated, but the maitre d' gave a subtle nod from across the room. He sat, posture straight, hands folded. Li Xiu studied him. "You speak Mandarin? Japanese? Any others?" 8 more, Nathan replied quietly. "Fluently enough." "Impressive," said Takashi. "Why waste such gift here?" Nathan smiled thinly. "Sometimes gifts pay the rent better than degrees." Clara shifted uncomfortably. "Well, perhaps the Elysian should hire linguists now," she said with brittle laughter.
Li Xiu ignored her.
"I admire humility," she said to Nathan. "But tell me, why are you really here?" Nathan glanced around. Every eye at the table was on him. "Because life doesn't negotiate," he said. "Sometimes it demands you start again from the bottom and speak a new language just to survive."
Li Xiu's Gaza Suftanat.
"That is a language I know well." There was a pause, one of those fragile silences that hang between strangers who suddenly understand each other. Then, softly, Li Xiu turned to Clara. "You tried to humiliate a man who could have been your teacher." Clara's husband looked down at his plate. "Clara, perhaps." But Clara snapped, "Oh, stop moralizing. It was a joke. A cruel one," Haru murmured. The tension thickened. Nathan stood. "It's fine," he said. "Really." He looked directly at Clara. "People often mistake service for servitude. But they're not the same." Li Xiu's lips curved faintly. "Beautifully said." Nathan inclined his head. "Your wine will arrive shortly." Back in the kitchen, he leaned against the steel counter, heartbeat steady now. The adrenaline had worn off, leaving a strange calm. The calm that comes when one has nothing left to prove. But the night wasn't over. When the desserts were ready, Nathan carried them out. 5 plates balanced perfectly, the aroma of matcha and chocolate filling the air. As he set them down, a ripple of applause began at a nearby table. It spread, small at first, then louder until the entire right wing of the dining room was clapping. Nathan froze. Cameras pointed his way. Someone whispered, "That's him. The waiter who speaks 9 languages." Clara's cheeks flamed. She tried to hush the crowd with a dismissive wave, but it was too late. The story was already leaving her control. Li Xiu raised her glass. "To hidden brilliance," she said softly in Mandarin. "May it never stay buried." Nathan bowed slightly, an instinct from years of studying Eastern etiquette, and stepped back into the shadows. Later that night, after the last tables had emptied, Nathan was stacking glasses when Li Xiu approached. The dining room was quiet now, lights dimmed to amber. "I have an offer," she said without preamble. "My firm needs a cultural liaison in Singapore, someone fluent in languages, capable of bridging our European and Asian clients. It's a 6-month contract to start." Nathan blinked. "You can't be serious." "I never joke about talent," she said. "I saw how you handled humiliation tonight with grace. That's rarer than fluency." He hesitated. "I don't even have a current resume." "I don't need one," she replied, handing him a card. "Just call. Consider it restitution for what you endured." He turned the card over. Her signature was embossed in gold. Dr. Li Xiu, founder, Horizon Investments. When she left, he stood alone amid the glittering emptiness, the hum of the refrigeration units the only sound. He slipped the card into his pocket. For the first time in years, something like possibility stirred in his chest. Upstairs, in the private lounge, Clara Davenport poured herself another drink. Her husband sat wordless beside her. "What's the damage?" she muttered. "Social feeds are already buzzing," he said, scrolling through his phone. Half the guests posted it. "Waiter humiliates tycoon." It's everywhere. She slammed her glass down. "Over a stupid language trick?" "It wasn't the language, Clara. It was you." He looked at her, tired, disappointed. "You keep forgetting the world's watching." She glared at him, but the words hit home. On her screen, the headlines were multiplying. Each clip captured her sneer, her bet. The moment Nathan's voice rose in perfect Mandarin, she scrolled faster, heart pounding, until she reached a comment that made her stomach twist. "Imagine thinking intelligence has a color or a paycheck." For the first time that night, she felt something dangerously close to shame. Downstairs, Nathan changed out of his uniform. He tucked the crisp Elysian bow tie into his pocket and stepped out into the cold London air. The city lights shimmered against wet pavement, reflections bending like memory. He pulled out Li Xiu's card again. Horizon Investments. The name felt unreal. He thought of his father, the man who had taught him that language was the soul's bridge. "Son," his father used to say, "the moment you let someone steal your voice, you let them rewrite your story." Nathan smiled faintly. "Not tonight, Dad," he murmured. The Thames wind cut through his coat, but he felt strangely warm. He turned toward the underground, not knowing where the night would lead. Only that for the first time in a long while, he wasn't walking away from himself. The morning after the incident, London awoke to a new headline. Waiter schools tycoon in 3 languages. Elysian Hall stuns high society. Clips raced across social feeds. Someone had filmed the entire exchange. The sneer, the bet, the effortless cascade of Mandarin and Japanese. Within hours, it had been subtitled in half a dozen languages and posted to every business forum and lifestyle channel. Nathan didn't see any of it until Jamil banged on his flat's door at noon, phone in hand. "Mate, you're viral. You're on BBC Breakfast. They're calling you the polyglot waiter." Nathan rubbed sleep from his eyes. "That's not real. Click it." He did. There he was, standing calm in his uniform, voice steady, while Clara's laughter curdled into silence. The caption read, "Humility speaks louder than money." Nathan set the phone down, both humbled and uneasy. Fame was a noisy kind of gratitude. By the next evening, reporters were loitering outside the Elysian's entrance. The maitre d' looked panicked. The owner, opportunistic. "This could be good publicity," whispered Mr. Delacroix, the restaurant's director. "Our brand with dignity and intellect. Perhaps we do a statement." "I'm not interested in being anyone's mascot," Nathan said quietly. Delacroix's smile faltered. Of course, purely voluntary." He clocked in anyway. Work was steady ground. Inside, however, the mood had changed. Guests nodded respectfully. Some even asked for photos. It was disorienting. During the lull between dinner rushes, a courier delivered an envelope. Inside, an embossed invitation from Horizon Investments. Dr. Li Xiu herself, requesting a meeting the next afternoon. A single handwritten line beneath the logo read, "Bring no expectations, only readiness." Horizon's London office occupied the 34th floor of a glass tower overlooking St. Paul's. Nathan arrived early, wearing the only suit he owned, charcoal gray, pressed with mathematical precision. Li Xiu met him in a minimalist conference room where the walls themselves seemed to breathe wealth. "I'm glad you came," she said. "How are you handling the attention?" "I didn't seek it," Nathan replied. "That is precisely why it suits you." She poured tea. "I watched that video more times than I care to admit. What struck me wasn't the fluency. It was restraint. You corrected arrogance without cruelty. That's leadership." Nathan hesitated. "You offered me a position." "I did, and I'm renewing it. Head of Cultural Strategy for Horizon's Singapore expansion. 6-month contract. Renewable. I'll arrange housing, travel, and salary worthy of your mind." He blinked. "That's more than fair, I hope," she finished gently. "But there's one condition. You must teach a weekly class for our junior staff, share the art of communication across cultures. Not grammar, grace." Nathan felt a slow warmth rise through him. "I accept."
Li Xiu smiled.
"Good. Then one more thing." She slid another folder across the table, newspaper clippings, legal documents, a press release draft. "Mrs. Davenport has issued a public apology. Her company's board demanded it." Nathan frowned. "I didn't want that." "I know," Li Xiu said, "but the world needed to witness the consequence. Her fall isn't yours to orchestrate, only to release." He closed the folder. "Then I release it." Across the city, Clara's world was shrinking. Her investors were fleeing, her PR firm overwhelmed. The viral clip had erased decades of cultivated respect. Board members called emergency meetings. When she finally faced the cameras, the arrogance was gone. She stood outside her Mayfair office, wind whipping her hair, reading from a statement she barely understood. "I wish to extend my sincerest apologies to Mr. Nathan Cole and to all those I disrespected by my thoughtless remarks. My actions were inexcusable and do not reflect the values of Davenport Holdings. But apologies spoken for survival rarely heal." The footage drew sympathy for Nathan, not her. Within a week, she stepped down as CEO. For a while, the city relished the irony. The woman who measured worth in money undone by a man who measured words. Nathan's last shift at the Elysian was quiet. Staff gathered around as he tied his apron one final time. "Never seen someone leave this place to run an international office," Jamil said. Half proud, half melancholic. Nathan smiled. "Language opens doors. Sometimes even kitchen doors." He left a note in his locker for whoever replaced him. "Speak kindly. You never know who's listening." That night he walked along the Thames again, suitcase in hand. The city lights rippled across the water like moving script. Somewhere between the bridge arches, he whispered a goodbye that only he could translate. Heat greeted him like a welcome. Horizon's tower stood above Marina Bay, glass catching the sunrise. In the months that followed, Nathan flourished, not just in status but in voice. He created training programs that paired cultural history with negotiation ethics. Staff who once dreaded cross-border meetings now approached them as conversations between equals. He taught them how to listen beneath translation. Li Xiu often observed from the doorway, smiling. "You see," she told him one evening, "humility travels faster than arrogance." One weekend, Horizon hosted a gala for partners and investors. Journalists buzzed, cameras flashed. Li Xiu insisted Nathan give the keynote address. He began softly, "5 months ago, I was a waiter serving wine in a London restaurant. Tonight, I serve you something rarer, perspective." He told his story without naming Clara, without bitterness. He spoke of how dignity can survive any uniform, how knowledge isn't currency but light. When he finished, the applause was thunderous. Some guests wiped tears. Others rose in quiet reverence. Afterward, Li Xiu approached. Your father would be proud. Nathan nodded. I hope so. An unexpected letter. Weeks later, a small envelope arrived at Horizon's office. The handwriting was unfamiliar, shaky. Mr. Cole, you have every reason to ignore this, but I've learned that silence can be cowardice. I've lost my company, my position, and most of my friends. I deserve that, but what unsettles me most is realizing I never truly listened to anyone who spoke differently than I did. If you are willing, I would like to meet, not for forgiveness but for understanding. Clara Davenport. Nathan read it twice, then a third time. He folded it carefully, placed it in his desk drawer, and thought long into the night. 3 months later, back in London for a conference, he agreed to see her. They met at dusk on the Millennium Bridge, where the city's skyline mirrored the river. Clara looked older. The sharp edges had dulled. Her posture carried weight rather than power. She held no entourage, no makeup armor, only humility. Thank you for coming, she said quietly. You didn't have to. No one ever has to listen, Nathan replied. That's what makes it rare. She nodded. I wanted to say in person that I was wrong. I thought humiliation proved strength. It only proved fear. Nathan studied her for a moment. Fear of what? Of being ordinary, she said. Of not mattering if I wasn't on top. He leaned on the rail, watching lights ripple on the water. We all matter differently. Sometimes you have to lose the stage to find your voice. She looked at him then, really looked. Not at the waiter, not at the viral symbol, but at the man. I hope someday I can earn the right to speak that calmly, she said. You already have, he answered, and offered a small, genuine smile. They parted without drama. No cameras, no audience. Just two people learning the same language of humility. A year later, Horizon's language of leadership program, Nathan's creation, became an international model. Universities invited him to lecture. Journalists called him the translator of respect. When asked about the viral night that began it all, he always said the same thing. That evening didn't change my life. It reminded me who I was before life tried to silence me. He never mentioned Clara again. But sometimes, in interviews, he would quote an old proverb his father loved. Words build bridges where walls once stood. Back in Brixton, Nathan visited his father's grave under a bright spring sky. He placed a small brass plate beside the headstone engraved in 10 languages. One phrase repeated, "Dignity needs no translation." He stood there for a long time, the city's noise distant, the wind moving through the grass like whispered applause. Then he turned toward the future, carrying no bitterness, only fluency and grace.